Just a little more time before we go live. All right, good to go. We are all live. Hello and welcome everyone to the 38th episode of the IET India Digital Conversations. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you, as well as your near and dear ones, are all keeping safe and doing well. My name is Suman Bhaumik. I'm your host for the series, and I also happen to lead the events development for the IET in India. This episode of the Digital Conversations is delivered in the context of the European project Indico in support of our standardization partners HC and TSDSI. Today's topic is pretty important and need of the hour, which is on 5G and beyond, where we look at use cases of mobile connectivity. But before we go into the topic just as yet, please allow me to take a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit about the Institution of Engineering and Technology. Now, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, also known as the IET, completed 150 years this year, being a global organization inspiring, informing, and influencing the engineering community to engineer a better world. As a diverse home across engineering and technology, we share knowledge that helps make better sense of the world to solve challenges that matter. In IIT India, we want to grow actionable knowledge, want to solve India-centric engineering issues, and want to enhance people's lives using technology and thought leadership to drive innovation. I have a short video with me here which talks about who we are and what is it to be part of the IIT family. Just give me a minute. There we go.
Our world is changing.
Engineering is changing.
Society is changing.
We are changing.
We're here to inspire,
Inform.
Influence.
And change perceptions.
Demonstrating how important engineers and technicians are in our lives.
Championing achievements.
Helping to create new technologies that enable us to thrive.
And inspiring future generations to make a difference.
Together, we discover new concepts by turning theory into practice.
Create solutions to society's biggest challenges.
Share knowledge and expertise through our networks.
Grow by developing new skills and capabilities.
Evolve and adapt for the future.
We are the IET.
Together, we are engineering a better world.
Mute. Okay. Yep. So there was it. Like we said, together we can and we will engineer a better world. If you would like to know more about us, please do visit our website and get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to explore more on this. Now, coming to our session today, which, as on a very important topic, like I said, it's on 5G and beyond, where we discuss use cases of mobile connectivity. And it's need of the hours because the 5G trials have been announced and it's already started. But I'm sure the stellar lineup of speakers that we have with us today will give you much more information on this than I could. So without any further ado, let's start introducing these speakers who have joined us from different countries and backgrounds while they help us explore more on the use cases and how 5G could enable breakthrough innovations in products, services, processes for the benefits of all. So introducing our first speaker today, who joins us from Stuttgart, Germany, is Dr. Andreas Müller. Andreas is the chairman of the board of the 5G Alliance for Connected Industries and Automation and head of communication and network technology of Bosch Corporate Research in Stuttgart, Germany. 5G ACIA, which is the short form of this, has been established as a global alliance for paving the way for the use of 5G technology in smart manufacturing and for unlocking the great potential that comes along with it. Our second speaker is Dr. Umen John, who joins us from Delhi and is the fellow of the International Academy of Health Science, also known as IAHSI. Dr. John is a physician researcher and a digital health expert. He's an alumnus of the Christian Medical College, Ludhiana, and Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. He is a conjoint lecturer and faculty of medicine, at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, and professor at Prasanna School of Public Health, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Our third speaker is Monica Gupta, who joins us from Mumbai, and she's also the chair of the Digital Communications Working Group of the IET Future Tech Panel. She's currently working as Vice President in Capgemini Engineering, responsible for ecosystems and alliances as the global lead on 5G and Edge for Intelligent Industry. Her key areas of expertise are 5G Edge, telecom IT, IoT, digitization, and OAS or BSS solutions. Joining us from Rome is our fourth speaker, Rafael De Pepe, who is the board member, 5G Infrastructure Public-Private Partnership. He has served Telecom Italia Mobile, is also known as TIM, International Operations and Domestic Strategy and Innovation Departments over the last 20 years. He represented TIM in global organizations and associations such as GSMA, and for 15 years has been leading a special relationship with MIT to seed digital innovation in the company. At present, he's serving as senior strategist within the TIM think tank to evaluate the economic impact of 5G innovation across vertical sector. Our fifth speaker joins us from Pune is Vijay George, who is a division leader at digital solutions at John Deere. With over 22 years of industry experience in the digital technology space, Vijay currently leads the digital solutions group at John Deere Enterprise Technology and Engineering Center, which also develops solutions to deliver a differentiated and intuitive product experience to Deere's global customers. And finally, coming to our moderator for the session today, Mr. Dinesh Chand Sharma, who is also the chair of the Standards and Regulatory Working Group of the IIT Future Tech Panel. Since 2012, Mr. Sharma is associated with European Standardization Project, CESAI, as a Director of Standards and Public Policy. In this role as a seconded European standardization expert in India, he acts as the focal point in India representing European standards organizations like ETSI, CAN, CENELEC, European Commission, and European Free Trade Association. And with that, I would like to thank all the speakers for joining us today and giving us this time, and shall request Dinesh to take charge of this session and start the proceedings. Over to you, Dinesh. I'll be in the backstage if you need me.
Thank you very much, Suman, for the kind introduction of our panelist and about myself as moderator as well, and get starting this webinar. Dear panelists and participants, as indicated, I'm the moderator for this session. My name has been introduced. I'm the seconded European standardization expert in India. This 38th episode of IIT India Digital Conversation webinar is delivered in the context of the European project Indico, along with the support of ITSI and TSDSI as a standardization partner. I would like to start the session by extending a warm welcome to all of our delegates, fellow IIT members, and most importantly, all our speaker or panelists who have taken out time and to be with us this afternoon to address this important topic of 5G and beyond use cases for mobile connectivity, as I said, which has been organized by Project Indico in partnership with IIT India. Just before we begin our session, let me set the context for this session. 5G, as we all know, and more so now during these trying times of global pandemic, is capable to deliver significantly increased operational performance. For example, increased spectral efficiency, higher data rate, and low latency, and as well superior user experience while offering full mobility and coverage. 5G can also cater for massive deployment of Internet of Things, also called machine-to-machine, while still offering acceptable level of energy consumption, equipment cost, network deployment, and the operations cost. We all know, we all can understand that it can support a wide variety of applications and services. As conceived around the pillars of enhanced mobile broadband, massive machine-type connectivity, and ultra-reliable low-latency communication, the impact of 5G will extend far beyond our conventional cellular applications to To start with, from smart cities, critical communications, and industrial IoT users to broadcasting and satellite providers. The 5G technology is also responsive to the needs of new players in the mobile ecosystem. 5G is starting or set to be rolled out soon in India, as indicated by Suman, that many trials have already put in place and it's ongoing. As is the case in many regions, including Europe, the stakes are immense when it comes to the adoption of 5G by industry sector and for the provision of public or private services such as education, health, e-government, etc. The success of these verticals or sector-specific applications will not only determine the return on investment which telecom operators will make in 5G, but more importantly, it will create a lot of value through the development of various services by leveraging the full potential of this groundbreaking technology. 5G verticals, as we all call around the applications, will thus drive the benefits brought by 5G to the society at large, covering economic development, innovation, new business model, well-being, inclusiveness, sustainability, to name a few of them. As you all know, 5G standardization activities are done by 3GPP, which is actually a third generation partnership project, where SDOs, Standard Development Organizations, from around the world, which includes ITSI from Europe and TSDSI from India, participate, they contribute, and the development of standard happens in a mutual working together. Just a brief words about the TSDSI. TSDSI has a user community from specific verticals as members who are driving studies and development of standards. These include broadcast broadband convergence with Ministry of INB, smart grid with National Smart Grid Mission, connected vehicles and autonomous transportation in the mobility sector, and in the fintech anchored by IDRBT, to name a few. TSDSI has also constituted an application and service layer based standards task force with a mandate among many of them, such as develop strategy for interoperability testing of application services and enabling technologies across the verticals. Come out with recommendations for large-scale applications field pilot across the ecosystem, and as well as a draft strategy for synergizing and coordinating efforts of TSDSI, TEC, Bureau of Indian Standard, and other relevant forms. This task force is focusing on a fintech and smart cities to start with, but agriculture, health, transportation, utilities, and manufacturing are also their areas of interest. At 3GPP, there is a dedicated group for capturing requirements. TSDSI and ITSI, along with other SDOs, shall continue to channel their requirements to this group for their standardization. Finally, the success of standards can be measured in several ways, starting with their rate of adoption, number of deployments, but ultimately, what drives this success is the creation of value and benefits to the people's lives around the world. As we steer through this session, we will try seeking answers on various aspects, such as what are the 5G use cases which will bring the most benefit to Indian society at large, and how will these applications become accessible and affordable to the Indian community? What are the conditions to unleash this potential? How can India benefit from international cooperations and from experiences gained in other regions of the world, such as Europe? How globally harmonized standards contribute to accelerating the speed to market and availability of these solutions? For this session, as introduced by dear friend Suman, we have a very eclectic panel of speakers from different corners and backgrounds who will share with us their experiences, the use cases of mobile connectivity, and how 5G could enable breakthrough innovation in products, services, and processes and benefit all of us. I will now invite our panelists in order of agenda sequence and request each of the panelists to make their intervention for up to 5 minutes. And with that, let me first invite Mr. Andreas Müller, Chair 5G Alliance for Connected Industry and Automation 5G ACIA. Dr. Andreas, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dinesh. Thanks for having me. Really pleasure to be part of this interesting event today. And it's really very important to bring different stakeholders together So especially in 5G, but also then for the future development towards beyond 5G and 6G from different verticals, from different backgrounds and so on. So therefore, I really think that's a great event today. So I have the pleasure to talk, 5 minutes, that's really a challenge, but I will try my best about 5G for manufacturing, industrial automation. Could spend 2 hours talking about it and still would not be finished. So therefore, I will try to keep it rather short and a little bit high level. But of course, if anybody's interested in learning more about this particular domain, then always feel free to reach out to me afterwards. So in general, why is 5G so interesting and important to the manufacturing industry? The reason is very simple. So we have the developments towards 5G, has been mentioned already. There's a major change compared to previous generations in the sense that it's not just about connecting people and connecting phones. It's about connecting everything in the Internet of Things with all the new vertical applications, including manufacturing, but also automotive, agriculture, healthcare, and many more. And of course, this is enabled by completely new capabilities like very low latencies, high reliability, massive machine type connectivity, and so on. Now, at the same time, and this started independently of 5G, we have the development towards Industry 4.0, the industrial IoT, so that we merge the physical world of production with the virtual world of the IT industry. And connectivity per se is a key enabler for that. And now it's rather straightforward to bring both major developments together, so to use 5G also in the factories of the future. And this way we can lift Industry 4.0 to the next level and achieve unprecedented degrees of flexibility, but also efficiency, productivity, and ease of use to support the people working in the factory in an optimal manner. If you look at potential use case categories a bit in more detail, we see that 5G certainly is a very attractive solution if we want to connect mobile or portable assets, automated guided vehicles, smart tools, forklifts, and so on. The same is true for connecting moving or rotating parts, where we have to use slip rings or track chains today, which basically nobody really likes. Also wireless sensors. And here we're also thinking about massive sensor connectivity. So not just a single sensor somewhere in a factory, but really hundreds or even thousands of sensors for condition-based monitoring, predictive maintenance, and similar applications. Human-machine interaction for like augmented reality, virtual reality applications. There's a lot of potential for this. And 5G basically is the enabler to use AR, VR in a very ergonomic manner so that you don't have a cable that comes out as such a pair of AR glasses, for example, that you can freely walk around, but still can get real-time information from the manufacturing environment displayed in the AR headset, for example. Also, positioning tracking is very attractive. So a 5G network can not only be used to connect things, but also to locate devices, and knowing where things are is in general a very valuable information in a factory for assets tracking, for supporting the navigation of an automated guided vehicle, and so on. Modular production, so that we can really have an extremely flexible factory. Retrofitting is a very important aspect, so that we can easily upgrade existing machines and production lines, which are often in use for 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. So if you can easily add some sensors or some other devices without having to worry about the cabling, that's very beneficial. And maybe the biggest benefit of all is that 5G has the potential to become a one-size-fits-all solution for wireless connectivity in a factory, and thus lead to a convergence so that we can really realize a wide variety of different use cases with very diverse requirements at the same time. So this is something where existing wireless technologies often fall short, even if some technologies can be used to realize some of the use cases mentioned here already, but only if you then consider the use cases separately. So just to briefly outline also the role of 5G SAA, because I can imagine it's maybe not known by everybody yet. So 5G SAA, the 5G Alliance for Connected Industries and Automation, has been established more than 3 years ago with the goal to bring all relevant stakeholders together in the emerging industrial 5G ecosystem. That includes the classical ICT industry, the telco industry on the one hand, but also the so-called OT, operational technology industry. That means the machine builders, industrial automation solution providers, factory owners, and so on. And the goal is basically to jointly drive and shape the developments towards industrial 5G, which covers then all relevant aspects. We are not doing standardization on our own, but we are supporting standardization activities in organizations like VGBP. And of course, we are also making sure that other important aspects like certification, test beds, and so on are well addressed as well. As of today, we have 85 members. You can see here an overview of the current members. It's really a good mixture between OT and ICT industries, and also from different regions around the world. And next week, we will be happy to announce at least 2 additional new members. So we are still steadily growing. And I would also like to invite everybody to join us as well. So it's really important to have this close interaction exchange. I think I already have to speed up, so that we'll try my best to do so. So if we check where we currently are with 5G in manufacturing, industrial 5G, so then we first of all can see that 5G is a reality today, but primarily consumer 5G. So the classical consumer business, we can get 5G smartphones, we can see that the networks are being upgraded to 5G. So that's the evolutionary way of doing things. If you look at manufacturing, it's a little bit different. So we are not fully there yet, but it's also revolutionary, something completely new that might have a really disruptive impact in some sense to the manufacturing industry. So therefore, it's really a revolution, but with a lot of potential to untap. So in the consumer business, it's more securing the existing business for the classical ICT players. With industrial 5G, there's a lot of additional revenue that might be generated both for the established ICT players, but also for the OT industry if we get productivity gains and things like this. So then this may come along with a lot of value add. So there's still work to be done towards industrial 5G, but I think the same applies to many other vertical domains as well. I guess the other distinguished experts in the panel can also say a few words about this. So why is now industrial 5G lagging behind? So we started later, only in 2018, 5G ACI has been established, whereas the general developments towards 5G started in 2012. From my perspective already, some key features that really make a difference to the manufacturing industry come only with release 16 and release 17 with VGBP. So I'm thinking here about ultra reliable low latency communication has been mentioned already, support for time-sensitive networking, which is the next generation real-time Ethernet, and also this NR reduced capability mode, NR RedCap, which is a more cost-efficient category of 5G device than that might be especially suitable for industrial sensors, cameras, and things like this. Also, there's a special need for new operating and business models. So these private 5G networks or non-public networks, as some people call them, play a very important role in manufacturing. And this is also something completely new. So therefore, this takes some time to get this up and running in the right way. Performance validation is still ongoing. So we want to see that 5G can deliver on its promise in real-world factory environments. We have different innovation cycles because ICT and OT industries come from completely different areas. And now these innovation cycles need to be aligned somehow. We need an ecosystem that has to grow from scratch. And it's not just a chipset, it's then also an industrial robot integrating a 5G module and so on. And this takes time. And we have somehow a chicken egg challenge. So the question is, will we first of all see factories being equipped with a 5G network? Or will there be, first of all, really a good ecosystem of industrial 5G devices? Somebody has to take the first step. Before concluding...
1 minute, please.
Yeah, I'll try my best. So before concluding, just would like to highlight here some of the recently established 5G ACI testbeds. So different members can get together to build something up and show some use cases. And the use cases, of course, is exactly what is most interesting here in this discussion. So one testbed has been established by ABB and Ericsson in Sweden. So that's about cloud robotics, for example, collaborative robotics, that we have a robot and we shift intelligence, the control to a local cloud and connect it using 5G. This increases a lot the efficiency, of course, and also the flexibility. Another testbed here run by Ericsson and Fraunhofer in Aachen, Germany, is about using sensors, for example, which are rotating at very high speeds and which then have to be connected wirelessly to optimize processes and adapt processes in an automated manner. Another testbed by Huawei and the German DFKI in Munich, Germany. So this is about combining 5G with artificial intelligence, for example, for preventive maintenance and for doing quality inspection on the transport of goods from A to B. So then transport time becomes value creation time, which is very beneficial. And there's also a testbed run by Bosch and Ericsson in Reutlingen in a semiconductor fab, so a clean room atmosphere, where we are working also on the cloudification of automated guided vehicle functionalities, shifting intelligence to the network, and also TSN over 5G. And the last slide already, these are basically 2 new test beds which only have been approved this week, one by Fraunhofer and Huawei, focusing on especially ultra-reliable low latency communication for factory automation, connecting fixed and mobile robots, and doing extensive performance validation and testing. And another one by another Fraunhofer Institute and 5G to Go, which is an SME based in Germany. So they're looking into combination of Open RAN, that means the virtualization basically of the radio access network, and private 5G networks. So how this can be brought together, how suitable this is for manufacturing applications, and also integrated positioning. So with that, I'm at the end of my talk. Thanks for being part of it, and apologies for consuming a bit more time than planned. And with that, back to you, Dinesh.
Thank you, Dr. Andreas. Very valuable information, and I like the evolution and revolution meeting together with the good work your organization is doing under your leadership. Before I move to my next panelist, I request all the delegates who are attending this session, if you have any question specific to any speaker or in generic question, please post your question in the Q&A drop-down window of your platform. Thank you. With that, let me invite Ms. Monica Gupta, Vice President, Capgemini Global 5G and Edge Lead, to please share your thoughts in a presentation. Again, try to limit your time, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dinesh. Thank you. And a very good afternoon to everyone. I will just share my screen as well.
Perfect.
Sure. So, and thank you so much, Dr. Andreas, for setting this context of, talking about 5G as a technology and the fact that it started in 2012. In fact, it's surreal for people like us who come from the telecom industry to see a technology being designed with industry-specific requirements over a time of so many years and evolving. And the focus of my talk today would be about accelerating 5G for industry. Dr. Andreas has also set the differentiation between consumer 5G and 5G for industries, and hence I would like to touch upon what is it that we collectively need to do for accelerating 5G for industries. I will touch upon the current state of where we are of 5G in industrial operations, and also recommendations as how we could accelerate the adoption. A little,
Monica, sorry to interrupt you. We have lost your slides.
Is that so?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Let me share again. You could hear me?
Yes, we can very much hear you. Yes, it's coming. Play it.
Is it still coming?
Yeah, it's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Thanks so much, Dinesh, for letting me know. Just to, also set the context as to, where is it that Capgemini is coming from, and, why is it that I'm presenting the current state of 5G and then also, our recommendations. So Capgemini is a global leader in digital transformation, in consulting, in technology solutions, systems integration, and engineering services. And we are very uniquely poised that we work with all the industrial clients. In fact, 2 out of every 3 of the industrial Fortune 500 companies are our clients. And also we are very deep into core R&D and development and engineering of connectivity solutions. And then this is basically the Altran capability for many of you who would know the Hughes software systems, and which is then Altran and now part of Capgemini engineering capability, which we now have. And hence we are uniquely poised in understanding both the industrial world, the industrial IT OT, as well as the connectivity, and where 5G along with other complementary technologies forms an integral part. And from our point of view, there are basically 2 aspects. One is the development of 5G as a technology, to which Dr. Andrews very rightly mentioned, something which has been under development since 2012 and which is, though a big major disruptive step change, but a continuity of the mobile technologies from 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. Of course, the first time when a mobile technology is being looked upon for adoption by the industries and also being developed with industrial requirements in mind. The second aspect is of using this technology, and in this case, specifically by the industries. With respect to the current state of 5G in industrial operations, the Capgemini Research Institute, we have just earlier this week released a global study report where we have actually surveyed, interviewed, and spoken to nearly 1,000 plus industrial organizations and their CXOs on what is their understanding of 5G, what are their plans, and where are they with respect to 5G. And these are the key findings. With the current 5 minutes of time limit which I have just one slide of it. I have shared the link of the report. It is publicly available. Anybody who wants more information may please read the report, and of course you can reach out to me or anybody in the organization. So the key findings. Early days of adoption for 5G in the industries. And this is exactly what Dr. Andrews has also mentioned. But the good news, 5G is exceeding expectations of the early industrial adopters. So 5G is basically delivering what it was designed and targeted to do, and it is already starting to show the results. Where are the industrial clients when it comes to 5G? They're still in the early stages. The industrial clients are still in the planning and ideation stages. But here we need to understand that adoption of any new technology by the industries is not similar to that of consumers adopting it. There has to be a proper proving, testing, validation of the technology, its reliability, its security, its assured performance before it can be brought into industrial live operations. And to even a more positive news, there is a strong interest by the industries to implement 5G within 2 years, and that is primarily driven from the fact that they see the value of 5G. A quick summary of the good points or the pros and the cons. I wouldn't say the cons, I would say the challenges or the issues which we have to work on. So the positive things or the boosters for the technology for adoption towards the industry is that the 5G features are matching and exceeding the expectations from an industrial client's point of view. This is the early adopters who have started experimenting and trialing 5G across the globe. It is delivering the business benefits, so very, very positive. It is not only meeting expectations, but it is generating value. And the industrial clients are very optimistic that it will drive revenues going forward, and which will come once 5G is adopted by them in their industrial operations, in their products and solutions which they offer, and of course also leverage 5G in all the services which they offer. The areas of work which we need to still focus on. Again, 5G is a technology, it's a connectivity technology, but it has to be integrated with the wider enterprise architecture. And also it is best leveraged when it works with other technologies like IoT, edge, computer vision, AI, ML. So integration of 5G networks with existing networks and IT systems is something which is work in progress. And specifically when we look at industrial solutions, we are now talking of a completely new offering of private networks, on-premise dedicated private networks, which obviously is still in development stages and early stages. So yes, this is the first area of work. The other area of work very much related to this is the lack of access to the 5G ecosystem. This not only means just the use cases, but this also means the availability of the solutions. It also means the readiness and the availability of the devices. And as we know, 5G as a technology is evolving. It started with NSA and then SA and then private and public networks with network slicing. Release 16 just becoming available in 2020. I hear some sound.
Yeah, it's just your alarm.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, fine. So, yes. So the devices. So the ecosystem is developing. We have seen a lot of developments recently where we see that yes, the ecosystem is developing very well, and every month, coming up, by Q4, we will see a lot of maturity and availability of the 5G ecosystem. And of course, cybersecurity, security by design is a key feature. And my last slide now. What is it that is our recommendation for the accelerating the adoption? Experimentation, test, and validation is the key. Dr. Andres touched upon a number of labs which are available in Europe for experimentation. We are very happy that we have just launched a 5G lab in Mumbai. This is a lab which is available for experimentation and proving this technology in India. It is using the Ericsson Industry Connect solution for the industries. It's a 5G standalone latest technology. Again, here I have given the link to the webinar which we just hosted earlier this week. Anyone who is keen on knowing more about the lab is more than welcome to please look at the webinar. And just 4 simple key recommendations for us from our side on how we could accelerate the 5G adoption. Understand the technology and the use cases which are relevant for you. So basically, understand the technology and where you can use it to maximize your benefits. Identify the network deployment model that works best for you. Everybody has to make an effort to understand public networks, consumer 5G versus industrial 5G, and the various network deployment models which are possible. 5G is an ecosystem play, so engage, experiment, work jointly, and of course, prove the benefits, fine-tune the approach, and work towards adopting 5G as the system evolves. So that's all from my side.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica, for sharing current state of 5G in industrial operations and sharing that 5G lab is ready in Mumbai, and integration of different systems with 5G, which is enabling technologies, will truly deliver the benefits. This presentation slides will be shared, dear audience, and these slides have the hyperlink to download the report and have more information about the 5G lab. With that, let me move to our next panelist, Dr. Oman John, Fellow, International Academy of Health Sciences, to deliver his lecture. Over to you, Dr. Oman, please.
Are you able to see my slides?
No, it was visible, but then you changed the screen properly. Yeah, okay, back and just play it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jineshji, and thank you, IIT, for having us here and specifically to talk about the health domain. So I'm going to be taking you through a potential use case of virtual care and remote patient monitoring in the era of evolving augmented intelligence. And for this, I'm going to refer to 2 of our very prominent politicians who met with unfortunate sudden demise. And if we were to look at what killed them, both of them kind to have attributed to an underlying kidney disease. So they had all the access that was available to the latest technologies, latest access to medicines, yet over a period of time, their disease eventually ended in massive heart attacks. What we see as these emergencies are just tip of the iceberg, and the question here is, can we use emerging technologies to go beneath the surface and actually intervene through nudges that could be even behavioral nudges? And perhaps 5G as a technology is going to offer several options around this. So in this context, I'm asking this question: would or could virtual care and remote management approaches improve outcomes in chronic conditions? And this is exactly something that we are experimenting. This is a beautiful district in Andhra Pradesh, in the coastal region, yet it is plagued by a large number of young people dying of kidney disease. And in this, we have been working with the government of Andhra Pradesh, and we found that out of every 100% that we surveyed, 42% of them had, or 42 people had high blood pressure, 13 had diabetes, and at least 14 of them had a first-degree relative having kidney disease. So in such a context, can we validate a remote patient management and self-care platform? And that is how we have developed something called Support PD, which is seamless, user-centered, proactive provision of risk-stratified treatment for providing dialysis at home or in the home setting, because the nearest facility of tertiary care center for them is about 200 kilometers away, which would be about 4 hours away. So we have to move access to care closer to where they live, and that is how this whole concept came about. So what is it? Putting patient in the center, can we ensure that we use all available technologies, be it monitoring of blood pressure, their weight, or even remote sensing, because many of these people, you can assess their quality of life through how they sleep, how they move around. So if we have wireless sensors that can be kept in their home environment and we are able to pick up signals, we could be actually identifying when they are worsening or if they are impending for heart failure or any complication. So this has been published, and I will share the links with you at the end of the presentation. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to provide a virtual care platform through which a person who is at their home is trying to manage their conditions, be it blood pressure, be it their own kidney disease. And what we're trying to do is, can we use sensors and non-traditional methods of getting these input data so that we can provide proactive interventions. So if one were to ask what are the factors that influences health decision, it is mainly about providing the right kind of information and the nudges for better decisions at that point of decision making. Otherwise, we will have diabetes and hypertension leading to emergency admissions and emergency tertiary care in events. But can we actually intervene? And that is what we are trying through. If we have a mechanism of continuous monitoring, and if we are able to enable the right kind of nudges, we would be able to enable them to make better decisions at the timely manner so that they can have better outcomes. So in terms of the real-time monitoring, all their exchanges and all their parameters are monitored. And for this, currently we are having severe restrictions in being able to provide continuous support because of the bandwidth availability. But should there be better connectivity, better improved latency, then we would be able to do all that we are aspiring to do in a real world scenario. So we really look forward to the 5G rollout in India and hope we can improve the lives of people who have these kind of illnesses. So it's not about just providing insight. It is also about being available. Unless you have a clinician available to be providing in person or in person through a remote platform, a timely decision, there will not be trust in the system. And to enable that, we need high quality bandwidths that is able to take all the sensor inputs, proactively engage with the clinicians and alert them to intervene when and where required. That is exactly what we are trying to do again through this project. And if we were to look at what are the challenges currently in providing care for chronic kidney disease in a rural and remote setting, or anywhere for that matter, it is that the symptoms are slow and the tasks are repetitive and compliance is difficult, and it is usually isolated episodic care. So with evolving technologies and evolving networks, we can have early warning system, interactive adaptive task scheduling, rewards-based engagement, and actually provide virtual care through the continuum of care. So having experienced what we've been able to do in chronic diseases, we have now been working with innovators and trying to see how can we actually take innovations on management of post-COVID complications in these rural settings. And we've been running a health challenge for that. If any of you are willing to partner with us, we will be delighted to work with you on 5G trials in these kind of contexts. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Oman, for sharing with us this very, very important use cases, which is more and more relevant in an Indian context from a remote monitoring and remote diagnostic perspective. The support PD and your innovation program, and I think this will benefit a lot. We will have a lot of key learnings from this. And I completely agree when we talk about healthcare, the faster the information reaches to the doctor, the faster the treatment can begin. So 5G becomes very important from that perspective as well. With that, we have questions, so we will seek answers to those questions later on. But let me move to our next panelist, Mr. Rafal De Pepe, board member, 5G Infrastructure Association, for his kind intervention, please. Mr. Rafal, please share your presentation.
Yes, hello, good morning to everyone. Thank you for this kind invitation. I will try to share my screen. Okay. I don't have a very good line this morning, so I'm not sure this is possible. Okay. Here we are. Can you see the slides?
Yes, it's perfect, sir. You can hide the stop sharing button so that it displays. Just hide. No. Just click hide. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I got it. Okay. So, first of all, I want to introduce the European initiative on 5G. We set up an industry association for 5G to speak with a unique European voice on this very important technology. And we are the private part of a public-private partnership with the European Commission called 5G PPP. So the European Commission put on a table 700 million euros to finance the research on 5G, and this 700 million have been leveraged by a factor of 10 by the European industry. And we want to contribute to the European digital transformation programs. So we have a strict dialogue with the European Commission through a partnership board, and we have divided the 5G research into two phases. There was a first phase in which we established develop the building block of 5G. In a second phase, we had trials with vertical industries. This because we wanted to validate and the technology and the use cases with relevant verticals. And you have a phase 3 up and running in which we have put in place cross-country platforms on 5G so that academia, SMEs, and other vertical industries put into this platform and test 5G. We engaged heavily with vertical groups, and these are our partners in the vertical space. This was key for the success of 5G in Europe because we could speak directly with the future users of 5G in the different sectors. We have the 5G ACIA of Andreas Müller, who spoke before, but we have also partners in the automotive, transportation, cybersecurity, public safety, and satellite. So now coming to the very important part of the discussion, we have developed a bunch of use cases for 5G in Europe. You can download all the brochures directly on the 5G PPP or 5G IA websites, and you can find the complete set of use cases we worked on. But let me speak about two very important sectors that I think are relevant for Europe in this moment, but probably also for India. As my predecessor said, the health sector is very important. Consider that Europe is a very old continent. It's not like India. Italy has an average age of 45. I think it's not real in India. We have 22% of the population over 65, and 40% of these people have chronic disease. So what does this mean? It means simply that the healthcare systems in Europe will not be sustainable in the long run. So we must use digital and 5G to rethink globally the healthcare system. What will be very important is that we use not only hospitals for people, but new structures and even patients' home. So telemedicine will be very important because we will do telemedicine a lot in Europe. So patients will be empowered to do self-diagnosis from home through very reliable networks like fiber and 5G. But it will be also important that we have teleconsultant services amongst doctors. So probably we will have a new structure, very agile structure on a territory, especially in rural departments, where we cannot have all the specialized doctors, but we will have generic doctors that will have teleconsulting services with specialized doctors in the hospital. And in this, 5G will be crucial because 5G can transmit video very well and has a very reliable. Another important use case is the connected ambulance. ambulances will become probably the first boom of the hospital. So we will be able to treat wounded people in car accidents directly in the ambulance. A second very important sector in Europe will be transportation and automotive. Why? Because we are undergoing a green revolution in Europe. As you know, Europe has set up a very aggressive KPIs green transformation, and 5G will be vital. For instance, Europe will incentivize transportation on railway, on trains. Okay, so application of 5G for trains will be crucial. So we will enhance infotainment on board of trains, so people will be more productive when traveling. And we will also use 5G to implement the signaling of the future railway system. And then we have, of course, the whole automotive sector, which will be very important for 5G. Europe has put in place some cross-country corridors to test 5G mobility between the different European countries. So this will be very important because we will have some use cases like platooning of trucks. So trucks will be able to travel in platoon, and this will reduce the consumption of fuel and so the pollution of trucks on highways. We have, of course, a lot of security use cases. So cars will be alerted when a pedestrian will cross the road, for instance, with 5G systems. As you know, 5G networks have a very high reliability and very, very low latency. So 5G in automotive will be very, very interesting. We have engaged in this sector with the 5G Automotive Association and with the main European big players like BMW, for instance.
Mr. Rafal, you have 1 minute, please.
Okay. So we produced quite a lot of white papers in which you can go deeper into these use cases. And we have promoted heavily standardization with vertical industries. So we have done a series of webinars in which we have invited our vertical partners, and we have collected what are their most interesting use cases and try to turn them into standard specifications. Okay, this will be all. Please contact me for any further information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rafal, for sharing all the great work getting done under your leadership as part of this infrastructure association. I made a note of different use cases, but a lot of white paper, a lot of trials and pilot details are available, which audience can refer it later on. Thank you very much. Let's move to our last panelist for this afternoon. Before we begin with the Q&A, I request Mr. Vijay George, who is a divisional leader handling digital solutions at John Deere India. Floor is yours, Mr. Vijay.
Thank you. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can. Just play it. Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. Okay, first of all, thanks a lot to IIT and Dinesh for the opportunity. Some great inputs from the previous panelist so far, and I'll try and cover one of the use cases in the precision ag space. Again, let's get started on that. First of all, we are dealing with the farmer community, right? Farmers today face huge challenges feeding a growing world population. There are some statistics out there which says in the next 50 years, the world population is going to grow substantially, increasing the global food demand by almost about 100%. Now, there are various numbers out there, but these are roughly the projections. And as this demand for food grows, there's going to be huge pressure on land, water, and other resources going forward. On top of this, available arable land, which is also shrinking globally due to urbanization and other trends, places the farmers in the double whammy of producing more food from less available land. And we believe this is where technology comes in to help the farmers in improving their efficiency of operation as well as improving the fields yield from the fields that they are working on. Now for this audience, I'm assuming that precision ag is a lot of new area for a lot of folks. So let me start by setting some context out there before we get into some of the details of how technology can be used in this space. Let's take the case of a mature agriculture market like the US and look at a typical US farmer. The average farm size that a farmer manages in the US is around about 4,000, 5,000 acres. And while these are not necessarily adjacent fields, but each individual fields could be in the range of about 200 to 700 acres. And the farmer manages all of these operations with about only 2 or 3 full-time members, which are mostly family members, but a few additional helping hands are used during peak season, primarily for managing the machine operations. Now let's look at some of the details out there. Let's look at a typical crop cycle, and these are four major sections to it, and they are listed at the bottom of the slides. These are basically prepare, when the land is prepared before seeds are planted on the ground. Second is the planting, where the actual seeds are planted. Third is the apply section, where application of nutrients, herbicides, pesticides happen throughout the growth of the crop. And finally is the harvesting of the crop, where the crop is taken out of the field. Now, each of these areas are highly sophisticated and requires a lot of precision given the nature of and size of operation that we just spoke about. Now, John Deere is the world's largest and biggest agriculture equipment manufacturer and has been in existence for about over 183 years now. However, over the past 2 decades, Deere has consciously been transforming itself from being a pure equipment manufacturer into a data-driven technology company so that it's able to deliver more value to the farmer, help them collect data and harness it for the improved farm management. Now, each of these machines that you see at the bottom, every time they operate on a field, we call it a pass. So on every pass that they have on the field, they're collecting data through sensors as well as geospatial data, which is then fed into our John Deere Operations Center, which is a cloud which you see up there on the screen. Now, when farmers and their advisors gather insights and are able to make decisions out of the data from this cloud, the data that's shared into the Operations Center from the machine informs the advisor or the farmers on the actions that they can take later in the day or later in the season or even in the future. For example, think of a scenario where data from the previous year's harvesting is analyzed by the farmer along with his advisors, and they're able to create an informed plan from where within the field they should be able to increase or decrease the seed population during planting, or make changes to the prescription where they can apply certain nutrients or protectants. And both of these data, once they are analyzed and prepared by the advisors and the farmers, is wirelessly sent from the Operations Center cloud directly to the machine, which then executes them. Now, the Deere Cloud is an open platform which currently has a little over 200 connected partners, and these are external partners who can both pull data as well as push data into the system, making it a much richer ecosystem. Internally, the way we look at all of this data is not an exhaust which comes out at the end of an operation, but it's more of the fuel which drives the subsequent operation and makes it much more efficient. And from this audience perspective, it's important to know that the foundation of all of this data flow is strong connectivity. And today that happens to be 4G technology in most part of the world. Let's look at a few use cases in the precision ag space. Here we're talking about in-field data sharing, which is basically machine-to-machine connectivity. Remember in the previous slide, I mentioned about the large field sizes. So typically during any operation, be it planting, spraying, or harvesting, there are multiple machines in the same field carrying out these operations simultaneously. Today, each of these machines can share data seamlessly with each other machines in the field through connectivity through the Deere Cloud, which enables the farmer as well as the other machine operators to ensure that they are not overlapping in any part of the field. And also lets them have an overall field level operation coverage or application maps for their operation. Again, connectivity happens to be the foundation of this use case. Let's look at the next use case of about real-time monitoring. With such a huge size of field and huge operation, it becomes critical for the farmer to monitor his operations on a real-time basis. And this could be about the location of his different machines in the different field. It could be about the quality as well as the progress of the various operations that the operators are doing, whether he needs to intervene in any of those scenarios if something is going wrong, monitoring multiple machine parameters to ensure that there is no downtime on his machine, and any of the other parameters which could impact the quality of the farm operations. Again, strong connectivity is a foundation for this particular use case also. Let's look at the last use case that I have for today, which is about remote display access. Now, a close analogy that I can give for this group is if you have ever had a desktop or a laptop fail and a technician log into your machine remotely and take control and fix it. That's exactly what remote display access is all about. Now, today, one of the biggest challenges farmers face is about the availability of skilled machine operators. What remote display access enables is allowing an operator's screen to be remotely visible from either a phone, tablet, or computer from anywhere. It could be on the other side of the farm, or it could be the other side of the world. A farmer can monitor in real time the work of a less experienced operator by remotely accessing that equipment and help him out with any setting that needs to be done. Again, connectivity ends up being the foundation of this use case also. Now, these three use cases that we have been discussing is primarily have been on 4G across the world. Now, let's look at how 5G makes difference to all of this as we go ahead with the technology rollout. Some of the earlier panel members have already alluded to it, but 5G brings along with it a lot of benefits, right? Along with higher bandwidth, better speeds, lower latency, and all of that would end up being beneficial in the precision ag space. And if you look at higher bandwidth and speed, that allows us to take better contextual data from better coordination and helps in use cases like the machine-to-machine connectivity. True real-time monitoring. Today, when we talk about real-time monitoring, there's about a 30-second lag, which could potentially come down to less than 1 second with the 5G technology rolling out. Another important is with the low latency, we'll be able to move out a lot of critical processing that today happens on the machine that can all be moved to the cloud, whether it's AI, ML, or any other heavy processing that can all happen on the cloud, and on the machine you're left with basic hardware which just collects data and maybe executes some use cases. So there's huge potential out there. Finally, coming to India, now precision ag maturity in India is still in very, very early days, but I'm quite hopeful of this rolling out in the coming days. A lot of industry players have started on this journey, and some benefits that we today see in the matured markets will eventually come into India too. Now, I heard the buzzer from Dinesh, so I may not necessarily get into details of all of this, but all the benefits that we have seen in the matured markets, whether it's real-time data capture, whether it's higher processing which can be moved off-board, whether it's remote monitoring, maintenance management, or about geospatial data, for which a lot of works have already been started by startups in India. We'll definitely see all of this coming to India over a period of time as 5G takes place. Well, that's been the last slide that I have. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and handing it back, Dinesh, to you.
Thank you, Vijay. George, quite valuable information about the precision requirement when we talk about technology implementation in agriculture, linking it with the food and yield and the efficacy of it. As I said, the audience, due to the paucity of the time, we have kept too short duration for this presentation. This presentation will be shared. You can have more information. You can contact these panelists, and even you can approach the organizer for more information. But let's begin with our kind of little bit Q&A. I see a lot of questions have been asked by the panelists also. But before we move to the panelist questions, I have at least one questions I would ask each of you panelists, and depending on how we progress based on our time availability, we'll see. But of course, we will also give importance or 15 minutes dedicated time for our audience Q&A. So let me begin with Dr. Andreas Müller. When we talk about industrial automation, which you basically presented also, and you're presenting this organization, we also call it smart manufacturing. With your experience and expertise while addressing this subject on behalf of this association or a boss as an organization, do you think that India has a similar needs or requirements as it is in Europe when we talk about industrial automation, or is it different making this vertical use as a reality in India? Could you share some light on this, please?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the good question, Dinesh. And I think the answer is pretty simple from my perspective. It all has to be global, right? So 5G is a global standard, and there are good reasons for that. We are coming from a world with different local mobile standards, and we all know, well, maybe some of us still know, that there were times where you would have to change your mobile phone when moving from one country to another one, right? So therefore, it doesn't really make sense that 5G is a global standard. Also important that a further evolution will be a global standard. And it's the same for industrial automation and manufacturing. I mean, this is per se a global industry and always a global market. If I now briefly put my Bosch hat on, right? Bosch is a provider of components for industrial automation, and the domestic markets usually are too small to have dedicated solutions for them. So if we have a product, we always want to serve the global market. And likewise, we're also a big manufacturer ourselves with more than 250 plants worldwide. some in India, some in China, some in Germany, and so on. And often we also want to build up the production in exactly the same way without having to change anything. So therefore, I would not see that now India is very different from the other countries. It's always the same concepts, the same ideas, and there are really good reasons that it should be always a global initiative. So that's why it's also great to have such an event like the one today, bringing in this case now India and Europe a little bit closer. And I think the same has to be done with the other regions as well.
Okay, thank you very much for confirming that. A related question on that, when you say it's global standard, and I know globally the standard development organizations work together, develop together. When we talk about a vertical, the applicability of the use cases differs from case to case. Even in agriculture, you have a different applicability of that particular use case. Similarly, in industrial automations, the use case itself could be differing, or maybe there could be a unique requirement from an Indian perspective. So related question to you is, when India has a unique assets like education, beyond startup ecosystem in India right now, we have a software development processes, a skill set. Do you think like it's more that this innovation requirement, how basically we can leverage this particular kind of competence in India while we work on different application set and get them standardized and be a part of the global ecosystem? What's your view on that?
Yeah, thanks. Another good question. And as I said, I don't see that there are now specific Indian use cases for manufacturing or so, but still many opportunities, especially for India, to at the end also serve the global market, right? Because basically we see three major developments happening at the same time, and each of them has already a lot of disruptive potential. If they're now coming together, it's really huge what can come out of this. And it's first of all 5G and the focus on vertical industries. The fact that we have myself being part of the panel, that we have agriculture, healthcare represented as well. These are completely new domains, which require maybe then also tailored solutions and customized solutions. The second one is then the development towards Open RAN, softwareization of the infrastructure, which especially for software engineers and software companies and so on, of course, has a lot of potential. And then the third one would be the private networks, not public networks, right? Also, that's something fundamental new, very relevant, especially for manufacturing, but also in agriculture, healthcare. There's a lot of potential. And each of these developments has many new opportunities, also for new players to offer maybe tailored equipment, components for different verticals, for private networks, maybe even new players offering services for these domains. So therefore, there's a lot of change now, a lot of innovation happening, and we are just at the beginning of this journey. So I really see India in a very good position to get quite a big piece of this cake, if you want. And the cake will be huge, and it's just growing. But really, I would see this on a global basis again, not just for India, but really opportunities to do business that also far beyond India.
Perfect, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Andreas. Let me go to Monica for a question. And I think during the presentations or interventions, we highlighted that the 5G is addressing one side the enhanced mobile broadband, on the side the massive machine type communications, and the third side it is the latency, which means there is an enormous possibilities existing depending on what could be the requirements. Some cases require latency, some cases require massive machine type. So I know you have set up a lab in Mumbai, and you also have labs elsewhere in Europe. Could you shed some light that from your perspective, but different use cases which are built in globally and other labs, but they are applicable in Indian scenario as well. So shed some light. Of course, you presented from an industrial automation point of view. What about other applications which you think is relevant from an Indian context?
Sure, Dinesh, absolutely, sure. So first of all, at least, and this is my understanding, and I think I see the other panel members also concurring that. When it comes to use cases, there is not any such thing as a use case only for India. What would typically happen would be some local adaptations based on specific considerations. And also, when we look at the 5G use cases, be it enhanced mobile broadband or ultra-reliable low latency, and even the massive IoT, these are basically use case categories. The real use cases are when you apply these capabilities and the 5G capabilities in the industrial operations, and which actually apply or are relevant for all industry sectors. So for example, if you just talk of manufacturing, and which by the way is one of the key sectors when it comes to 5G adoption, there is no industry where there is no manufacturing. I mean, be it automotive, be it industrial equipment, be it agri equipment, be it even retail, warehouses, consumer goods, there is manufacturing in all. And the benefits of technology and the use cases in manufacturing itself are immense. Use cases like supporting strong connectivity in field operations, remote expert assistance, remote monitoring, even using AR, VR, and other immersive technologies for training, for remote health. Dr. John touched upon telemedicine. I mean, the applicability of real-time transmission and complementing it with compute on the edge or on the cloud, or for that matter, using immersive technologies for training and for remote patient, technician training help. It's immense. So I think what we will see is the use cases, leveraging live streaming, leveraging immersive technologies, leveraging autonomous mobility. Mobility is synonymous to wireless. How can you have mobility or free mobility with a wired connection? So these capabilities, when applied to different industrial operations across sectors, is where the power of 5G is. And all of this experimentation is already underway. And all of this is very relevant to India. And there's one more point, Dinesh, which I would like to say. Another point which is very relevant to India. India is also a research and innovation hub. We have many of the panel speakers who've already touched it, John Deere, health and all. 5G is equally relevant for all of this R&D to happen in India, because all these products, when they kind of become 5G ready, a lot of that research is also happening in India. And hence we need to look at 5G in India from two aspects. One is 5G for R&D, which is perhaps even the 5G lab which we have set up. And the other is 5G for India, which would be all the 5G for the public, private, industry and society.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let me go to Dr. John. There has been a significant increase in use of telemedicine and virtual care in the last year. You also showed in your presentation. What are the opportunities to scale up of this home-based care model in India? I know, because 75% of our country is a rural part of it, and your use case, your live running use case around dialysis does prove that it is working. So how we can scale up these home-based care model in India, and what are the prerequisites for the widespread adoption of this virtual care in India?
Thank you, Dinesh, sir, for this question. It's very valuable because, as you know, health is one of the last adopters of technology, despite the fact that a large number of technologies have evolved out of health also. For example, the CT scan or the MRI and all of these. But I think the prerequisite would be for health to quickly adopt existing standards or health IT related or digital health related standards, because as evolving standards for 5G and particularly machine-to-machine communication and IoT devices and all of this, unless your own backbone is first compliant to your standards as relevant to the health IT standards or health informatics standards, how can it be future ready for an evolving technology? So that would be the first thing. Two is that I think we are still so happy with asynchronous delivery of care. And as we have recently noticed during the surge, when hospitals run out of capacity to actually serve people, you have to manage them at home. Twitter is no health management platform, but a large proportion of healthcare delivery in this country was managed on Twitter. But if we had, let's say, devices, sensors, and other things that were quickly deployable in people's home, we could have saved so many more lives. So the time is now, I would say, for healthcare industry itself to adopt relevant standards and come up to speed, so that as evolving standards for 5G, as it relates to health comes up, we would be quick to adopt and implement and scale.
Thank you very much. Affordability, high-speed pipe, if once we put them in place, you can reach for a mass scale. Thank you very much. Let me go to Vijay, George, around precision and agriculture. how do you think like the one which you have implemented right now again can go to a wider mass scale rollout, this precision agriculture solutions from an Indian context point of view, where we have a limitations like we have a small farmers, small villages, village panchayats kind of systems in India. How do you think like the one which is excellent, which we need of the hour, how we can ensure that it could reach to the mass scale rollout or usability in India?
Sure. Thanks. Great question, Dinesh. Again, some of the use cases that I highlighted today are maybe more for a mature market, and they may not necessarily play out the same way in India. With the realities of India, that some of which you mentioned are slightly different. So we'll have to adjust and adopt. And you already see a lot of activity happening out there, both within India as well as from the industry players, making progress in that, and that will continue to get better in the coming years. But some of the things, like when we talk about 5G, right? 5G potentially enables more bandwidth and lower latency. One of the challenges that we have seen globally as well as in India is rural bandwidth availability, right? And that's where hopefully with 5G we have better bandwidth and lower latency. Where we spoke about India being a really cost-conscious market, right? With the latency benefits coming in, a lot of this processing power that we see in the advanced market that happens on the machine can be moved to the cloud, right? So we are left with some basic processing on the equipment. So you're able to cut out some of the cost and bring some basic IoT devices which can capture data and maybe end up taking execution activities out there. So that helps in adjusting some of these solutions to India. Some of the startups are doing some real good work today. When you look at folks working on the crop health monitoring system through drone image capturing, right? Those models are becoming better and better. And with a technology like 5G coming in, those are activities that you will see more and more happening, which are more suited and adapted to an Indian market. So those are few areas, and I'm sure more will emerge, Dinesh, as we go ahead in this space.
I completely agree. If we can make the technology affordable, if we can make the return on investment, if we can integrate this startup ecosystem. I remember, when this 4G was launched, who was the best maximum user in India? It was the rural India who were watching TVs, who were using e-commerce. Give them some affordable solutions, and I think they will implement it. It's not a question that they are not skilled to implement it. With mobile revolution in India, with reach to the 100%, almost 100% population, I think it is possible. We have to make sure the technology with a bigger pipe and a latency could be rolled out. Thank you very much. One more question before we go to the audience to Mr. Rafal. I mean, with your presentation, I saw a lot of trials, a lot of pilots, a lot of use cases you have demonstrated and worked on, either under as 5G Triple P or as 5G IA. In generic sense, I tentatively, more or less, all the panelists agree that they have the usability all across the board, including India. But from your European perspective, could you shed a little bit more light? I mean, how do you engage, your association engage with this vertical ecosystem, like the startup or the people who have built up this application in Europe? And how do you integrate them into the standardization? You did briefly mention about it. And then do they have a linkages with an economical impact or an IPR point of view from your side of it, from your experience point of view? Mr. Rafal?
Yeah, thank you for this interesting questions. Okay, we since from the beginning, we thought that verticals were key for the success of 5G in Europe. So we saw 5G more as an industrial technology than a consumer technology. For this reason, when the first board was elected, we decided to go for a vertical engagement task force. I'm leading it right now. So what we did is we tried to engage with the most representative industry association in a different vertical. So we could not speak with each single industry firm company, but we preferred to go for MOUs, agreements with industry fora in different domains. So we have now an MOU in place with 5G GPA, we have one with 5GAA, with NEM, is in the satellite sector, and in this way we could establish a platform for communication with the vertical industries. So In this MOUs, we decided to share more information amongst ourselves, so the telco industry and the vertical industries. And we also agreed to do trials and pilots together. So this was really, really very important to establish a true communication way between the traditional industry, telco industry, and the vertical. With the project, we could contribute with more than 800 contributions to the standardization process, and we could raise a good number of patents. So in this moment, we have 17, almost 8%, 18% of active 5G patents, and 20% of the whole 5G in US and Europe are of European companies. Finally, the European Commission evaluated the impact of vertical industries powered by 5G is huge. The European Commission calculated that the impact of 5G on vertical industries is about 113 billion euros by year. The benefits are of different nature. One benefit for vertical industry is strategic. So, for instance, car manufacturer can enhance a car with 5G capabilities, and it can raise sales with this. But it is also operational, since, for instance, a car industry can adopt 5G for its production facilities and save money in producing cars. Finally, we have impacts on also on consumer. So consumer who adopt a 5G powered product will raise his productivity, and in this way he can contribute more to the local GDP. So this would be all for my answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fall. With that, let me stop here asking me questions to you. Let's go to the questions which our panelists, our delegates have asked. I will read the question. If there is no specific name of a panelist, please raise your hand. Who can answer this question? I mean, and we will have maximum 2 interventions. So whoever raises first 2, I will seek feedback from them. The first is on a financial inclusion. And the question written down is, central bank digital currency is the digital equivalent of currency. Fact, it's going to be a future. It will transact real time with big data and immediate settlement. One major challenge is financial inclusion due to insufficient telecom infrastructure in India. Share some thoughts on how 5G would help in this case. Thank you very much, Suman. I'm old, I'm using glasses. You have put it on a screen. Thank you very much. So who can answer this question?
No problem, Dinesh.
Any hands?
So let me take a shot at it, Dinesh, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, I'll give it a shot. I'm not too sure if it's in the same lines with what the person asking the question is asked. So let me talk about today, farming community, right? Most of the farmers in India are rural-based farmers, right? And typically they're not part of the formal banking process because they don't necessarily have a bank account or any of those statements. So when they go to a formal bank to get loans, they don't get it because they're not, you cannot have a credit risk report pulled out for them, which the banks typically use. So what's happening is a lot of startups and a lot of organizations have started looking at other ways of how you can verify the credit worthiness of a farmer.
Yeah.
And that's where technology comes in handy. People have started using satellite image to take a look at how the farmer has been doing, how his yield has been in the last year, trying to make assessments out of this. There are financial models being drawn out of it, based on which they are able to assess the credit worthiness of a farmer, based on which today loans and other things are being forwarded to the farmers. And I'm sure these are early days in the space. A lot of this will see more enhancements and more models coming out, and especially with 5G rolling out, you'll see more and more activity in this space. I don't know if that answers the question.
It does, but I will add on to it. I think where this question is going, because this morning I read an article, my friend in Sweden shared it with me. It's like China is launching a digital currency. So basically, when we have bitcoins or these cryptocurrencies on one side of it, everybody's waiting to have a formal way of digital currencies. And I think it will become a reality sooner or later. But from a technology point of view, I agree that when you have the financial transactions, real-time financial transactions, you would ensure more from a security point of view. You would require a higher bandwidth to have the information shared as quick as possible with the latency part of it. And I think 5G would definitely help having that inclusion as well today or tomorrow when we have the world connected, when we have the central bank and the IMF working together to have the digital currency as a real future. So I think that is how we will address it, and I hope it answers your question. But if it is still not, you can contact me or panelist or through Suman. Suman, next question, please.
Yes, I'll get it on the stage. This is from Soumya Mohanty.
Yeah, that is good because I'm not able to see their names. The question is to make automation in smart cities. We need big data centers to analysis of the data to keep our data safe, which means we must do 5G with IoT technology. I think it's a comment. It's not a question.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
not a
agree.
question.
We
Yeah.
agree, Soumya. This is a true statement,
So,
basically. Thank
Dinesh,
you.
perhaps
Thank you
I
very
can
much.
just answer this one a bit or further explain
Yes.
this. So,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
completely, what Soumya has said is absolutely right that, what 5G and what IoT is actually enabling is that avalanche of data. And I think the basic founding principle, if I remember years ago of ISO, is what you can't measure, you can't improve, and then hence the need for data. And the key concept, and which is where I made this comment, that 5G will work with other technologies as complementary, and hence distributed compute or edge compute is super critical when we talk of 5G, and it complements it. So the data centers will not anymore be central, but they would be a set of distributed data centers. We already see operators and telcos in US and in Europe now going for a distributed a telco edge. And a lot of smart city applications, be it intelligent transport systems, be it entertainment, gaming, all of this will use a lot of this distributed compute and edge compute.
I completely agree with it, and I think Vijay's presentation also talked about data is the next fuel. It's all a game of data. It's all a game of artificial intelligence. It's all a game of data centers connected worldwide. Suman,
Great.
before I go to the next
Next,
question,
yeah,
I
yes.
seek your permission to have extension of 5 to 10 minutes for this particular. Okay?
Yes, yes. I think Dinesh, I mean, given the nature of the discussion, which is really interesting, and we see a lot of audience there, so we would request everyone to stay back for 5-10 minutes more,
Exactly.
because we would like to take up these questions. They all seem important.
Yeah.
And with that, the next question on the screen is from Andres Soma.
Okay, and thanks, Andreas. And it says, all use cases requires a robust, secure, resilient, and affordable underlying infrastructure, including redundant power, stable power, and stable connectivity, especially from a rural perspective, access to national global data center, and supporting policies and regulation. How will you ensure that there is a redundancy, there is a
Correct.
stability, and there is a security, and there is an affordability, and there is a robustness and resilience? Who would like to answer this question? And basically, effectively, he's saying that when you talk about technological evolution in terms of 5G, I mean, how the technology is ensuring that the connectivity stays, it's stable, it's secure. Maybe to begin with, before anybody talks about it, Andreas, I mean, security is paramount. Security is getting addressed not only from a horizontal perspective, but also from a vertical perspective. More and more, we talk about security by design principle these days. When we talk about standardization and redundancy is a part of the designing. When you design a network implementations, you ensure that there is a redundancy. More and more, we are moving towards cloud. Uh, but yes, I mean, these are something which you are asking. It's not something which you say it's fixed, it's done. You implement this, it's done. We evolve, we learn, we implement it. This is what I can share it. If anybody else has more contribution to it, please raise your hand and or give your intervention, please. Yeah, Dr. Andreas.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I can briefly comment. I mean, of course, from the perspective of manufacturing industry, but I think it's maybe similar than for some at least of the other domains. And the dimension points are very relevant, of course, and important. And this is also basically one driver behind these non-public 5G networks or private networks, right? So if an enterprise is able to deploy and build up somehow an own 5G infrastructure, for example, in a factory or in a hospital, you can also ensure security in a better way. I mean, it's more under your own control as a company how to do that and not to, for example, give the data out of your hands. But also you can ensure that and take own measures, for example, to make sure that there is adequate power supply and maybe some backup, or that the infrastructure is good enough so that it satisfies your needs. And in many cases, if you look at 5G and these vertical applications, not in all cases, but in many cases, it's really more about local applications. Maybe automotive mobility is an exception here, but many other cases, local connectivity. And then with a private network, you can make sure that you have it under your own control at least, right? And then you're not dependent on others or the national rollout on the availability of the power grid and so on, but you can take measures yourself in order to make sure that the network is up and running as expected, as needed, and also that it's secure enough, satisfying your specific security needs.
I completely agree with you, and I think that is exactly he was pointing out. We need to have a supportive policy as well. The 5G will be rolled out in a small enterprise environment as well. So support is policy support is needed, regulation support is needed. Small network like a microgrid, micro network will be rolled out. So I think when designing a network implementations, a lot need to be put in place when technology is supporting the capabilities and the functionalities. Next question, please, Suman.
So the next question is actually in two parts. I'll put the first part on the screen. It's from Arvind. There it is. It is with 5G for industrial adoption still 2 years away. What should be the approach that enterprises adopt for device and connectivity needs while implementing or rolling out IoT solutions now?
This question goes to you, Monica. In one of your slides, actually, you indicated that it's 2 years away, but we need to work it now.
Yes.
It's a question for you. Thank you.
So, my reply to this would be that, adoption of 5G by industries is a journey. And so it's not about today or 2 years away. It's just that the journey is started and it's a process. And in this journey, there are different phases. So right now we are in the ideation and planning and the experimentation phase. As part of the experimentation, typically the industries will start piloting and start doing lighthouses in one of their, premises, or it could also be in specifically for global big companies. They are doing lighthouses at regional level. So they are doing one lighthouse in Europe, one in Asia Pacific, China, and one in India, US, and so on. And basis that experience, if you see, even which was a part of my last recommendation, you basically test, learn, and then fine tune the approach. So that pilot and lighthouse will actually be used for learning, for fine tuning the approach, for preparing an implementation roadmap, and most importantly, preparing for scale up and mass industrialization. And what will complement or further support this entire journey is the fact that as more and more experimentation happens, the technology and the ecosystem becomes more and more robust. And so we will have the volumes of scale and also ease of availability, which will then accelerate this journey.
So effectively, you're saying it started, it's happening. It might take 2 years to complete its journey, but there is a journey we have to travel slowly, phase by phase.
Absolutely.
So while you're at it, Monica, the second part is obviously about should they go with what is available in the market? Sorry,
Mr. Rafal, you wanted to add something, or I see your head nodding. No. Okay, fine. Second part of it.
The second part is should they go with what is available in the market currently, which is LTE and private LTE, for example, or go for a retrofit option later, or delay large-scale implementation till 5G devices are available?
So, Suman, LTE adoption has already happened in most of the countries, and even in the industries, wherever there was a need, be it Bluetooth Low Energy, Wi-Fi, NB-IoT, LTM, even unlicensed IoT technologies like LoRa, Sigfox have been adopted. Now, the question is, where do you go from this journey? So first limitation which these technologies offered were that while they were low power, but they were also low bandwidth and very, very intermittent usage. So they did not cater to a bulk of the use cases, specifically the enhanced mobile broadband, and let's not even talk about reliability and latency. So, there was basically a big chunk of use cases which was not addressed, which is getting fixed. And also 3GPP, as part of its standard development, has taken care that the GSM technologies of NB-IoT and LTM are compatible going forward, and they will be part of 5G IoT. So there is a full backward compatibility which is assured. If I may also say, the solution manufacturers and the chip manufacturers are also taking care of the backward compatibility. Many of you might have read the new Qualcomm announcement of the 5G IoT chip. They're taking care that the 5G IoT chip has the same pin design and the same form factor as the 4G one. So all their ODMs can actually, once the 5G IoT chip, the IC315 is available, can actually just do a regression and a verification testing of the 4G devices and offer the 5G capabilities that IC315 chip is actually promising to support up to 1 Gbps of throughput vis-a-vis the standard 30-40 Mbps, which is usually supported in 4G. So it is like, again, I would have to repeat that it's a journey. And there is no such one toll gate that this is the right time. You start with what you have and you keep evolving.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question, Suman. She rightly answered.
The next one is from Neeraj from Tata Communications. In India, we still do not have any policy framework for allocating licensed spectrums to private enterprises for deployment of private networks, similar to what is being done on any other countries such as Germany, etc. Any actions being taken on this? This is his question.
This is more India-specific questions. Yes, it does exist in all around the world. In India, it is getting pursued, and I think more from a 5G perspective, the industry associations are pursuing it today. But as you know, the spectrum is a big subject in India. With past experiences of court cases or administrative allocations, but to have a real implementations, we would need these, whether it becomes licensed or unlicensed. That's a big question, but I think when a 5G rollout will happen today or tomorrow, we will have to make these spectrum available for these small enterprises. A work in progress, a lot of persuasion happening, but we have a challenges with the availability of the 5G spectrum as of now. I think this is where DOT, TRAI, with ISRO, because ISRO is also an incumbent user of this 3.5 gigahertz, for example. So, but I completely agree with you that it needs to be implemented in India, and to implement it in India, you will need those kind of spectrum. So we have to continue working with associations and the organizations to pursue this matter with the government of India, and we hope it will be a reality. Thank you. Next question.
Okay. Thank you, Dinesh. We'll take the last question now before I'll hand it over to you, Dinesh, to summarize this. And the last question is from Sachin Agarwal from HCL, coming on the stage now. Yes. So his question is, if 5G is to be implemented, then underlying infrastructure, routers, chips, switches, etc., needs to be upgraded. Is it the right assumption, or older infrastructure will work with 5G? If the answer is no, then what could be an appropriate cost or approximate cost maybe and time for a mid-sized company?
I mean, as far as I know, generally all these suppliers, manufacturers are ensuring that it is software upgradable, more or less all the products, all the underlying infrastructure. This is what I can say, and probably a little bit Monica shared it, making it backward compatible today. Even if 5G rollout, the same device will work for both. For example, mobile phone these days, I mean, if they are 5G capable, they are also supporting 3G and 4G or 2G, whatever. So in my opinion, more or less, if any of the manufacturers building a product based on the global standards, they are backward compatible. they will be capable to get an upgraded to the next release of 5G or so. Maybe Monica can add or anybody can add.
So just, I mean, Dinesh, what you said is absolutely correct. And just to add on to it, I don't think anything would be immediately replaced. And also, looking at the cost benefit analysis, it would make sense. So what would most likely happen, and in fact, it's already there, you have these 5G IoT gateways and the 5G routers, which would kind of act as the connectivity intermediate. So you would most likely create a fixed wireless access or a local 5G hotspot, or terminate the LAN connections coming in and then use 5G as the backhaul. So there would be a greenfield, brownfield, and a planned evolution which would happen, and would also depend on your usage. So if there is a use case which warrants, low latency and a kind of a 5G kind of throughput, you would obviously invest in 5G connectivity. Whereas if there is a use case which is just best effort and just transmission of the data, and where 5G is used as that thick connectivity thing, I think the 5G gateways and the 5G routers and the CPs would be perfect. So it would be a mixed approach.
Yeah, and I completely, she rightly highlighted, when you introduce a new technology, you don't go for a mass scale. You start introducing in pockets, and that's where you plan your network accordingly. Thank you very much. Is there any questions, Suman?
No, that's about it, Dinesh. We've covered all the important ones, and I move it over to you now.
Just in case if we missed out any due to the oversight, please feel free to write to Suman, and
Yes,
then we'll
please.
try to get an answer for that particular questions. With that, I mean, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you very much, Suman, for organizing. Thank you very much, Project Indigo, TSDSI, ITSI, for making this happen today. If I could give my closing remarks, I could only say that when you see the applications, and I think broadly everybody in this panel discussions highlighted, like Dr. John highlighted, healthcare, most critical. It has an applicability not in India, but globally all around the world. With COVID in place, with COVID experiences, it has become more and more important. So healthcare is definitely a use case which is not only local, it's all global, and it has a local applicability. Second applications we talked about around industrial automation, whether you call it Industry 4.0, whether you call it smart manufacturing. Again, it is the same. It has no differentiation. Of course, you can customize, you can adapt based on your real requirements. The third was agriculture, which Vijay highlighted. In India, we need more and more agriculture-related automation, agriculture-related improvements to really make value out of our yields. So agriculture is definitely a good use case. Then we talked about mobility, and in mobility you can talk about intelligent transport system. You can talk about green evolution as a cause and a reason to move to a automation of this transportation, or the railway, for example. It has an applicability in India as well. Then security, the security which is definitely horizontal, but even from a vertical perspective in India, it has a very important applicability, like secure cameras. We have cameras getting installed all around the cities these days. Now, more and more camera you connect, more and more data gets generated. Now, when more and more data gets generated, you need more and more bigger pipes, for which 5G will be applicable. So I think broadly I can say, and I can conclude, it doesn't matter whether this application comes from one part of the world or another part of the world. It has an applicability, and 5G is bringing that capability with it as an enabler. Make best use of it depending on your use cases. With that, I will formally close this session with a sincere thanks to everybody. Have a nice evening or a nice afternoon with a great weekend. Thank you very much. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you, Dinesh, for this. Thank you, speakers. I would like to, like Dinesh said, I would like to thank HC, TDSCI, and Indico for helping us curate this session. And thank you, speakers, for taking the time out. And thank you so much to the audience, who joined us from, I could see them from over 10 to 12 countries, all over Europe, Singapore, Africa, Australia, India, of course, Sri Lanka, Dubai. So thank you all of you for joining us today. What I would like to end this with is next month we have a very important event coming up. As I told you, IET has completed 150 years of its existence this year in May. Next year, we are starting with some of the celebratory events on the 17th of July, wherein we have a global event called EndStalks, which is a virtual talk series. And we will have some of the topmost global influencers in technology who are going to grace the platform and speak on these things. I would request all of you to, be a part of that event and, register yourselves for that. I have the link here on the chat as we speak. And you will see more information about this on social media and through our emailers very soon. But until then, I want to wish everyone a very good weekend up ahead. And like I said, thank you for giving us the time and opportunity. Please take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again next time at the same place on the same channel. Thank you so much, people.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank
Take care. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.